Steve Cleveland was huge in the turnaround of BYU basketball. He is joining us now in Studio B. The Star Wars series has apparently turned around. For a little while, the quality of movies went away.
Yeah, the first three weren't that good.
But now it's back, kind of like you brought BYU basketball back, Coach. How invested are you in this whole Star Wars situation?
I'm probably more invested in what happened originally than I am what's happened in the last 7 or 8 years.
Me too.
Yep.
Did you see the new one, though, like a year or two ago? The Force Awakens?
No,
the seventh
I
one?
was on my mission.
You haven't?
You've
been back like 6 months, bro.
But I'll catch up before I watch this next. I'm planning on watching the next one.
You want to borrow it from me?
Yeah, I love that.
Okay, I'll bring it in one of these
Thank
weeks.
you.
It's like as a public service.
Thank you.
It's actually a private service to you.
Jeremy's mildly offended right now.
I was like, Coach, man, you did a lot of good. This was on your mission. We got to catch you
We're
up.
10 games into the season for BYU basketball. At this point, we're thinking like we have an idea of what this team is, but I mean it's still early, right? So what have you learned about BYU basketball through 10 games?
I think there's 3 things we could probably talk about today. The first is establishing a rotation. And that for a coaching staff, sometimes you go into the season and know kind of, hey, here's our top 8 guys. We've got freshmen here and sophomores here, experienced players here. This is not the case. You have a very young team, a very inexperienced team. And so as you look at a team, and I thought a lot about this when I was coaching, it seems like you have 3 types of players. You have developing players, younger players. You have players that have specific roles on a team, and then you have players that are difference makers. And I thought today maybe we would just talk a little bit about where I see that right now and that evolution, because this changes. Yeah. It's not one of those things that, hey, you're always a role player, you're always a developing player, you're always a difference maker. It changes in practice, it changes in games and how you perform, your attitude, your effort, and everything. So as we look at the personnel, the coaching staff probably has the greatest responsibility in terms of managing the rotation. And there's a lot of discussions amongst the players, amongst the coaches. And as I look at it right now, LJ is the point guard.
Yes.
Okay. I think evidence in the Colorado game suggests to me that he's not going to be playing 30 minutes a game, that probably 20 to 22 minutes a game is where this coaching staff would like him to play, with Bale playing 20-plus minutes in that game.
You think Bale will start to play more?
Yes, I do. And I think he's one of those developing players that maybe has a specific role right now, and we'll talk about that in a moment. The other thing is that with Nick Emery, you would have to, I think that LJ has a role too. His role is leadership, a calming effect, hit the open 3 when you're there, distribute the ball, and that's not the fact that he can't make big plays, but that's not his role in this team. Nick Emery and Eric Mika, they're more the difference makers in this team. I think both of those players have really upped it a notch defensively. Their effort, where they're supposed to be, they've taken more leadership, and so they are the difference makers. I would look at TJ Haas and say he's probably kind of a developing difference maker. He's done some wonderful things of late, much more under control, taking good shots, distributing the ball. And I think with the 4 spot, it's a little bit unique because Kyle Davis, you had a senior, a veteran. His minutes are going to be limited. I don't think any of us really know how much time he's going to play.
He's banged up.
So Yoli Childs, there's your developing player with the role of doing what? Rebounding, contesting shots, finishing around the basket, and ultimately going to have to start making some free throws because that's going to be a really important part of it. So there's your starting 5 that are all kind of different places. But if you look at the roster and say, okay, who's the first big off the bench? Well, it's got to be Kyle Davis if he can play. Eights would be there. And then I think Kafusi, to be honest with you, a month from now is going to have a presence, be able to go into games for 3 or 4 minutes and really help defensively. With the guard play, I think Bale is at the top of the list coming off the bench.
How about that?
Okay. And let me just share this with you. As a coach, trust is huge. You don't just put young players in a game, not meaningful games where they're important.
Yeah.
And so this didn't happen in a game. It happened in a practice. He's been hurt. He's had a bad thumb. He hasn't been able to be who he wants to be. But in just talking to the coaches and watching things from afar, he takes good shots. He's not hunting shots. He's defending. He knows where the ball's supposed to be. That's what you want on the floor.
There's your role player.
There he is.
One of several. Right?
Yes, one of several. But that's where your role play, and that's his role. And can he hit a shot when he's open? Yes.
Oh, he hit an enormous 3 against Colorado.
And he's not in a situation where he feels like he's got to hunt shots. If I make a couple more baskets, I'll get a little bit more playing time. He understands why he's on the floor, and so do his teammates. Because one thing you do as a coach, you don't keep secrets from people. You make it very clear that Jerem you're playing because these things are happening. Spencer, I hope you understand that, but this is what he's doing. And
Yeah,
you're very
I'm
open.
going to get the majority of shots.
Exactly. Up front. But, just having that honesty, you got to be really transparent with young people.
Yeah.
You can't trick them. All right, they got to know what it's going to take you down the floor. So that's kind of where I see this rotation going. Now, could it change? Injuries can change things. I mean, Elijah Bryant played 75 minutes the entire year. We projected starting point guard, the BYU projected starting point guard, going to have a huge impact. We're not even sure when he's coming back. So that will change the rotation if he gets healthy.
BYU beat Colorado, and that was as much of a must-win at this point in the season as you can have. Now they have Illinois, who's actually a top 100 KenPom team. How big is this game for the Cougars Saturday?
You know what? It'll be really important for them to stay true to their principles. And you don't get in a big arena and all of a sudden decide you're going to start playing like they did at USC.
USC, yep.
Okay? Yep. And so we can't have that, because Illinois is they're a good team. And they beat VCU on a neutral court. They beat NC State at home. They've had actually good losses to really good teams. And it's a veteran group. Their three scorers are all guys that have been around. So just do what you've practiced. Just remember back. I would just go, let's remember what we did against Colorado, because that was the best they've played this year against a really good team. And against teams that aren't very good, it doesn't really matter sometimes. But what does matter is that when you're playing a team that you're just supposed to win by 20, play the same way against them that when you're playing Gonzaga or when you're playing St. Mary's.
Steve Cleveland with us on BYU Sports Nation, reviewing the win against Colorado and previewing BYU and Illinois from the United Center in Chicago coming up on Saturday. Let me just make a point. Jerem is hunting shots, Coach.
Yes.
Okay?
I'm a volume scorer.
He's hunting shots. So you may want to reconsider your
Tuesday-
starting lineup. there.
Tuesday nights at the church, I'm hunting shots.
Yeah, I'm sure you are
Absolutely.
at the church, at the State Center.
Okay, now that we've got that out of the
Okay.
way. When you look at what BYU has done through 10 games, 7-3, we've seen a little bit of everything. What do you expect the Cougars to do over the next 10 games because of the status of developing players and role players? Now the rotation's starting to take a little bit more of a solid shape.
The evolution of this game right now is, they're 3 games away from starting conference play. And I'll go back to this. We always talk about the NCAA tournament, and that's kind of where all the media is and all the publicity is. But you know what? I know this team has set a goal to win a WCC championship. I don't care who's in the league. And so to win a championship in a conference over a period of 2 months, things have to be consistent. And offensively, what I've seen in Evolve is that we've always played with pace. If they had 90 to 100 possessions, that's what they wanted the last 5 years historically. They don't have that same personnel. And so they've changed. They made some changes, and they're slight changes. They're still going to have pace. They're going to run after misses, run after makes, but they're not going to come down and just jack up a 3 either. They're going to come down, throw it inside, look for a layup or a one more pass for a 3. They're going to be more selective in their early offense. Then what happens is they get into that half-court game, and now they play with more of a purpose. And we've seen that. You saw it against Colorado. That ball's getting pounded inside. Mika he shrinks the floor defensively. He shrinks the floor. And when that ball goes through him, he has everybody's full attention. And so from there, now you play with the same pace, but you have that purpose of inside out. And I think that's what you're going to see. That's how they're going to play. And it takes an adjustment. You know what? This is what I believe. And I watched enough early practices. It's really hard to get young men and young women to run hard and run with pace every possession. And you pound that, and then sometimes they get a little bit confused, thinking, well, we're going to run here, we're going to shoot it. As quick as we're going to run, we're going to shoot it quick. That has maybe been the way it's been at times, but it's not going to be that way with this club.
Steve Cleveland bringing it Star Wars style in Studio B. By the way, if you could compare one BYU player or coach to a Star Wars character, who would it be?
Well, we have to go with Coach Rose as Yoda.
Okay.
The all-knowing, I'm trying to figure out who Chewbacca would be.
We said Eric Mika.
right?
We said Mika.
I'll go with that. I like that. He's kind of groaning, yelling, doing those crazy things.
Absolutely.
Yes, I like it.
Thanks for the time, Coach.
You're welcome.